So it turns out there are these three professors. Okay, and these three professors, Helen Pluckrose, James Lindsay, and Peter Boghossian, and they decided to prank all of these stupid academic journals out there. This story is so great. I love it so much. Here is Peter Boghossian explaining what exactly they did to prank these journals.
Had a lot of fun with this project.
The reviewers are worried that we didn't respect the dog's privacy. That's the concern. We respected the genitals.
But don't let that lead you to believe that we're not addressing a serious problem. If you have a few minutes, I'll try to explain.
Okay, it's so good. It's so good. So what did they do? They submitted all of these insane papers to these feminist and gender studies journals, and they all got printed. And the papers are unreal. So there's the dog park paper you heard him describe there about why dog humping incidents are rape culture. I talked about it on the show. Here, there's another one where they wrote a paper. Excuse me, it's so good. They wrote a paper claiming that when a guy privately pleasures himself while thinking about a woman without her consent, in fact, without her ever finding out about it, that he's committed sexual violence against her. That was printed in a queer studies journal. Okay, they wrote a paper arguing that the reason superintelligent AI is potentially dangerous is because it is being programmed. I want to give these people a medal. They argued that the reason superintelligent AI is potentially dangerous is because it is being programmed to be masculinist and imperialist using Mary Shelley's Frankenstein and Lacanian psychoanalysis. That's their feminist AI paper. They argued that a fat body is a legitimately built body as a foundation for introducing a category for fat bodybuilding into the sport of professional bodybuilding. It went into a journal called Fat Studies. Oh my God. Oh, that's so good. They found something called feminist glaciology. Okay, this is a real thing apparently. So they copied the idea, and then they wrote a feminist astronomy paper arguing that feminist and queer astrology should be considered part of the science of astronomy, which we'll brand as intrinsically sexist. And researchers loved it. Then they wrote a paper about trans people in the workplace. It says men use male preserves to enact dying macho masculinities discourses in a way society at large won't accept. They published a paper best summarized as, quote, a gender scholar goes to Hooters to try to figure out why it exists. Okay, it's so great. Defamiliarizing common experiences, pretending to be mystified by them, and then looking for social constructions to explain them. Sure. Oh man, I can't even read this one on the air. Wow. It would be so... I'll try to explain this in the most PG rated possible way. Wow, this is going to be a challenge. So they did a paper on certain toys, implements that are used in times of intimacy, typically by men who are not straight. So they asked the question, why don't straight men tend to pleasure themselves via use of these implements that are generally used by gay men? And what would happen if they did? And their paper was printed in Sexuality and Culture when they concluded that men would be less transphobic and more feminist if they allowed themselves to be treated in a way that straight men typically are not particularly fond of. You know, that they try to avoid, why we try to avoid going to the proctologist as often as possible. Oh my God, the very best one, of course, the very best one is that they submitted a paper to the feminist social work journal Ophelia. Okay, this is what they did. A feminist rewrite of a chapter from Mein Kampf. They literally took a chapter from Mein Kampf, they replaced some of the language with feminist language, and they submitted it to Ophelia, and Ophelia printed it. Okay, is it fair to say that all of this stuff is garbage? That all of these journals are garbage? I think it's pretty fair to say that. I think it's pretty fair to say that. At the time of the publishing, they have 7 papers accepted, 4 of which have been published online, 3 more have been accepted without having had time to see the publication through. 7 papers are still in play. 6 were retired as fatally flawed. They had 4 invitations to peer review other papers as a result of their own exemplary scholarship, and 1 paper that gained special recognition for excellence from Gender, Place, and Culture. That was the dog humping paper. Just spectacular. just spectacular. I love this. They said, part 3, why did we do this? Because we're racist, sexist, bigoted, misogynistic, homophobic, transphobic, trans-hysterical, anthropocentric, problematic, privileged, bullying, far-right-wing, cis-hetero, straight white males, and one female who's demonstrating her internalized misogyny and overwhelming need for male approval, who wanted to enable bigotry, preserve our privilege, and take the side of hate. But the real answer is that, obviously they're joking, the real answer is that these things are just they're just junk. Postmodernism is a bag of junk. It's a bag of junk, and they just proved it. This is so much, it's basically a stepped up version of that story that was floating around for a while from Modern Art Museum, where a guy went to a Modern Art Museum, took off his glasses, put them on the floor, and then just stood there staring at them. And soon there were 100 people crowded around to stare at his glasses on the floor. And he did this for like 5 minutes. And then he reaches down, picks up his glasses, wipes them off, puts them on, and leaves. Right? So it's basically that, except for academic studies journals. I can't believe that people are upset about the idea of me subsidizing someone to study these topics at college. Of the 2008 study that counted 986 Louisiana deaths took a different approach, counting only deaths that could be directly attributed to the storm. So it is not clear at all how many people even died in Hurricane Katrina. So now fast forward to Hurricane Maria, and President Trump back in May of this year, he started trotting out these statistics that are clearly not true. He said 16 people died in Hurricane Maria. He said 16 people certified, 16 people versus in the thousands. You can be very proud of all your people, all of our people working together. 16 versus literally thousands of people. But in reality, thousands of people died in Hurricane Maria. Okay, it's only a question as to how many thousands of people died. Here's Governor Ricardo Rossello. Back a few months ago, they announced that they had increased the death toll to near 3,000. And there's another study that suggested the death toll is actually near 5,000. Here is the governor on CNN being grilled over the statistics.
The way it's taken care when it got to 64, it was those related to the storm immediately after the storm. Once we realized that that was a faulty protocol, we called upon the Malkin Institute, George Washington, so that they could revise it and do it properly and do it scientifically. So it's taken time, no doubt about it.
But the number is still on your website.
Making sure that all of the data.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but just to be clear, you're saying that that number on your website, the official death toll, is not accurate.
Well, we've never expected that it was accurate. That's why we always said that it was going to be higher, and that we gave the task to George Washington University so that they can study it and that they could arrive at a number.
So I'm going to explain how they came up with this statistic and why President Trump is wrong despite all the vagary of this, and why it's politically inept for him to approach this issue at all, frankly. But first, let's talk about your sleep quality. So when we talk about sleep, you think about a lot of things. You think about, the quality of the light in your room. You may think about the quality of your mattress, which is certainly something worth thinking about. But you should really be thinking as well about your sheets. Like, are your sheets actually comfortable? I know you don't think about your sheets very much. You just got a cheap pair down at the local retail outlet, and you've been sleeping on those. You're like, oh, they're probably fine. They're not fine. They're probably garbage. Instead, you should be sleeping on Bull and Branch sheets, because everything Bull and Branch makes, from bedding to blankets, is made from pure 100% organic cotton, which means these sheets start out super soft. They get even softer over time, and you can buy directly from Bull and Branch, so you're essentially paying wholesale prices. Luxury sheets can cost up to $1,000 in the store. Bull and Branch sheets are only a couple $100. And before you say that sounds expensive, it isn't, considering that you're sleeping on them every night. And they are so comfortable that I actually got rid of all the other sheets in my house once we started using Bull and Branch. It's difficult for me to sleep on sheets of lower quality now. So Bull and Branch has indeed spoiled my sleep quality on nights when I'm sleeping not in Bull and Branch. Bull and Branch sheets are just that good. Everybody who loves Bull and Branch sheets, everybody who tries them, loves them, which is why they have thousands of 5-star reviews. Even 3 U.S. presidents sleep on Bull and Branch sheets. Shipping is free, and you can try them for free for 30 nights, meaning if you don't love them, send them back for a refund, so there's really nothing to lose. I doubt you're going to want to send them back. There's no risk, no reason not to give them a try. To get you started right now, my listeners get $50 off your first set of sheets, so they go from $200 to $150 at bullandbranch.com, promo code Ben. That's bullandbranch.com today for $50 off your first set of sheets, BOLLNbranch.com, promo code Ben. Use that promo code Ben to let them know that I sent you, and also so that you can get that special deal. So how exactly did they come up with this 3,000 number? Well, as you heard, Ricardo Rossello, who's the governor of Puerto Rico, he basically outsourced the study to George Washington University. And what they did is they compared excess deaths over the normal death rate at this particular time of year. They said, quote, our excess mortality study analyzed past mortality patterns, mortality registration and population census data from 2010 to 2017 in order to predict the expected mortality if Hurricane Maria had not occurred. That's the predicted mortality, and compared that to the actual deaths that did occur, which were the observed mortality. Now, the problem there is that maybe it was a year when there were going to be an inordinate number of deaths. Anyway, we don't actually have the names of the people, so can you count somebody as dead if you never find their name? Are these people who existed or did not exist? This is why there's inherent vagary, and that's why the numbers really swing pretty wildly here. There was a study that came out last year